Going into university requires you to prepare for quite a few things, and one of those things is getting a credit card. We talk about a bunch of different credit cards on this channel that come in a ton of different shapes and sizes. But the credit card your current bank is giving you may not actually be the best one to get, so let's talk about it. First, we'll dive into why you should consider getting a credit card, and then we're going to talk you through a couple of things you might want to consider when you're searching for a new card to add. Lastly, we'll also give you our top picks for the best student cards in Canada for 2024 and I guess the beginning of 2025. Now before we even start talking about why you should consider getting a credit card, let's talk about what a credit card really is. Now a credit card is a financial tool offered by a financial institution like TD or American Express. Now they come in two general forms, secured and unsecured credit cards. The main difference for a secured credit card is that you have to put up a deposit when getting the credit card that's usually equal to your credit limit. This is in case you don't end up paying your card off. The bank has something to just pay your card off so they don't lose any money on their end. Now this shouldn't really affect most students, as you should really be able to get an unsecured credit card as your first credit card right off the bat. Now there's a ton of information out there on the internet from people saying you should never get a credit card because it's how you get into a bunch of debt. And while I do kind of see where they're coming from, I do definitely see a different way of looking at it. Because with good education and responsible habits, I think credit cards can be one of the most powerful financial tools in your entire arsenal. A big promise, I know. I think a general guideline we use with credit cards is use your credit card like it's a debit card. Never overspend just because you have this credit limit now that isn't really tied to your bank account. Make sure to stay within your means and just have responsible credit habits. We'll talk about what these habits are a little bit later in the video as well. Now looking at your long-term future, what are some of the reasons you should get a credit card? One that comes to mind right away is when you're trying to rent a place. There's a high likelihood that your landlord is going to ask for a credit report, and they can just see if you'll be responsible paying off their rent the same way you'd be responsible paying off a credit card or student loans or other loans you've had in the past. When you have a stronger credit score, you also have the opportunity to get loans at a lower interest rate. This means, for example, your mortgage is going to have a lower interest rate, which could save you tens of thousands of dollars over the course of an entire mortgage. Or for example, if you ever get a car loan, that also may have a lower interest rate, and you'd just be able to save some more money every single month. You won't see these benefits instantly, but it's certainly a long-term game you're playing, and it's great to start playing it right away. There's also a more immediate advantage to using credit cards over a debit card. It opens you up to a bunch of opportunities for rewards on your day-to-day spend, meaning you're going to be getting 1% back, for example, on every dollar you spend over the course of a year, which could really end up adding up. There's also a host of other benefits like zero liability, meaning if someone frauds your credit card, goes around, spends a bunch of money, it's much easier to get it back on a credit card compared to a debit card because your debit card is your own money and you have to really prove to the bank that it wasn't really you. With a credit card, it's a lot more easy to do. You can honestly just do it on the app or on the website most of the time. Just click dispute this transaction. There's also a bunch of other benefits as you climb the so-called credit card ladder, like for example, travel coverage, mobile device insurance, lounges, hotel statuses, priority security, a bunch of other cool perks you get with a credit card that you won't necessarily get with a debit card. Now that we talked about why you should get a credit card, what should you actually look for when you're picking up one of these cards? For most people, we always suggest starting off with a cashback card as opposed to a rewards one, just because it makes it a little bit easier. You'll get started with the process a little faster, and then eventually you can graduate to a rewards card where you can redeem for things like travel. Ideally, you also want to start out with a credit card that has a low annual fee or no annual fee at all. This is just because you don't want to spend money right away, and for example, if you don't really think you're going to be using a lot of the benefits that come with a higher annual fee card, it doesn't make a lot of sense investing when you can just save that money and put it somewhere else. We're going to talk about a bunch of different credit cards on this list, and some of them do have an annual fee, but we'll talk about why it may be worth it paying for those specific cards if you're going to be able to get the benefits out of it right away.
The first card that we have up on the list is the BMO Cashback Student Mastercard. BMO is not one of those banks that we usually associate good credit cards with, but this credit card is really strong. Even though this card has no annual fee, the earn rates on this card are pretty strong. As an introductory bonus, you earn 5% back on everything up to $2,500. Even after the introductory bonus, the earn rates on this card stay pretty strong. You earn 3% back on groceries, 1% back on reoccurring expenses, and 0.5% back on everything else. I would have liked that groceries multiplier also extend to dining, but I guess you can't win them all. This is a great card if you already bank with BMO, or if you bank with someone else like TD and their credit card only gives you 1%, this is a great alternative to look at. As expected with a no annual fee card, the perks on this card are quite limited. You get 20% off on Alamo and National Car Rental, as well as 5% back on Enterprise Rent-A-Car. You also earn 7% back when using Booking.com to book your hotels, which is a great perk to have. The next card that we have up on the list is a card that you might not have been seen coming. It's the Simply Cashback Visa card. It's a great card if you just want another hassle-free cashback option. As an introductory bonus, for the first 4 months, you earn 10% cashback on food delivery, dining, and coffee purchases, after which it drops down to 4% cashback. The other earn rates on this card are also pretty strong, as you earn 1.5% back on drugstore, gas, and grocery purchases, as well as 0.5% back on everything else. This, in my opinion, just edges out the BMO cashback card a little bit more, as it's a great all-rounder card with the 4% back on food, as well as the 1.5% back on groceries, so you can kind of mix and match both of them. The one advantage that the BMO cashback card does have over the Simply Financial card is that there is a $15,000 minimum income requirement for this card. So if you have a part-time job or you live with your parents, that could be considered as household income towards that card. So try considering that when you're planning to get this card. If you live in Toronto and use our favorite transit system, the TTC, then you're in luck because you get a $50 Presto voucher with this card. You earn this $50 voucher when you spend $50 with Presto. This could be tapping on the subway or just filling up your Presto card. This is not just limited to the TTC, but pretty much anywhere that accepts a Presto card. Lastly, you do get purchase security as well as extended protection insurance, which is great if you plan to buy something expensive like a laptop or a phone. You'll be glad to know that you're going to be covered if anything happens. I will go on the terms and conditions to make sure that the item that I'm buying is covered, so you might have to check that to be sure. This is a great card if you know that you spend a lot on food, if that's going out with friends or family, as well as that Presto voucher can come into great use sometimes. If you don't make the required $15,000 that Simply requires you to make, then you could consider the CIBC Dividend Visa Cashback card as an option. Off the bat, I want to preface this by saying that the earn rates on this card are not as strong as the Simply card, and you don't even get a welcome bonus with this card. Where the card really shines is that it's a great all-rounder card, so you know you've got your bases covered. This card does earn 2% back on groceries, which is better than the Simply card, but then earns 1% back on gas, EV charging, transportation, dining, and reoccurring expenses. And you also earn 0.5% back on everything else. This card basically hits all the spend categories that you are most likely to spend on, so it's a great all-rounder card to consider. Another perk that you get with the card that you don't get with the other two cards is that there is no cap on how much cashback you can earn, while the other two cards have a cap on how much you can earn in a year. Again, unsurprisingly, the perks on this card are quite limited, but you do get 10 cents a litre off on these petrol stations. Like the Simply card, you do get purchase protection, which is always great to have, but that is kind of where the perks end for this card. Although it might seem like a mediocre card, the fact that you have earn rates on almost everything, as well as there's no cap on how much cashback you can earn in a year, is a great benefit to have that the other two cards just don't provide. We're going to be shifting gears a little bit and moving from cashback cards to travel cards. These travel cards are great if you don't want to think about cashback too much and start traveling a little bit more. The first card that we have up on the list is the American Express Cobalt card, and I'm sure you guys saw this coming. We've extensively talked about the American Express Cobalt card, and we've made an entire video about it that you can check out. But if you don't know what it is, let me tell you about it. The Amex Cobalt card is one of the strongest cards that you can get in Canada. Why, you might ask? It's because of the earn rates as well as the value of MR points. MR points are Amex's in-house points currency that you can use for a bunch of stuff. You can use MR points to get a statement credit, gift cards, transfer them out to airline partners, or you can use it on the Amex travel portal. As a welcome bonus on this card, as long as you spend $750 a month, you earn 1,250 bonus points each month for a year. This can add up to 15,000 points in a year, but we have seen a 22,000 point offer, sometimes with a referral link. So feel free to ask a friend or use the one that we have in the description down below. This card does come with a $155 annual fee charged monthly, $12.99, but the earn rates on this card are simply unmatched by most credit cards in Canada. You earn 5 times the points on dining, food delivery, and groceries, as well as 3 times the points on subscriptions, 2 times the points on transit, gas, and EV charging, as well as 1 times the points on everything else. We made a rough estimate of how many points you could end up with in a year, assuming that you spend that $750 to get that 15,000 point welcome offer. Again, this is a very rough estimate of how much you could potentially end up with in a year. Your budget might be different to someone else's budget. This is just data that we've collected from friends as well as our own spend to kind of give us an idea of how much you could potentially earn. If you don't see yourself hitting that $750 each month, you might want to think about more creative ways of hitting spend. Like whenever you go out with your friends, you might want to cover the bill and then they can all ET you back, or something along those lines. With the rough estimate that we've come up with, you could earn up to 48,000 points. That's $480 just in statement credits. But you can earn a lot more value if you decide to transfer those points out to airline partners. The two main transfer partners that you want to be thinking about when transferring these points out are Air Canada Aeroplan and British Airways Avios. If you decide to transfer your points out to Air Canada Aeroplan, there's a lot that you can do with it. You can travel from pretty much anywhere in North America to Europe for just 35,000 points, which is great value. The only downside to this is that you have to book a one-way flight back to North America, which can get quite pricey. If you're looking for some round-trip redemptions, flying from Toronto or Montreal to Vancouver for just 48,000 points in business class is great value. This is sometimes difficult to find, but Alan and I were able to find it and we flew it about a month back. If you're looking for some British Airways Avios redemptions, you can fly from Montreal to Doha with Qatar Airways in economy class for just 35,000 points. You can also extend your trip to anywhere in the Middle East for an extra 2,500 points. These seats are even usually easy to find as well as a great value, so if you're looking for something like that, then you might want to consider it. Wrapping up my thoughts on the American Express Cobalt card is that it's a very strong card, but I wouldn't suggest getting it as my first credit card. I would normally suggest getting it as your second or your third credit card. Amex usually likes to see some credit history before approving you for a credit card. So building your credit up with your first student credit card might be the way to go before you apply for the Amex card. One big disadvantage with this card is that it is an Amex card. What do I mean by that? Is that Amex is not accepted everywhere you go. In my experience, Amex is usually accepted 70 to 80% of the time, but some of the time I just have to pull out a Visa card and pay for my things that way. If you're still not too convinced by the American Express Cobalt card or want a Visa card in your arsenal, the CIBC Aeroplan Visa Platinum card is a great choice. Unlike the Cobalt card, the CIBC card is a student card which can make it your first credit card. It is also a Visa card, which means that it's accepted almost everywhere. This card has no annual fee and does come with a welcome bonus of 10,000 Aeroplan points when you make your first purchase. The earn rates on this card is where we start seeing the differences between the Cobalt card and the Aeroplan card. This card earns 1 point for every dollar spent on gas, groceries, EV charging, and Air Canada. It earns 1 point for every $1.50 that you spend on everything else. These earn rates aren't that strong and nothing compared to the Cobalt card. I personally have this and the Cobalt card myself, and I have this card for one major reason, and that's preferred pricing. Now, what is preferred pricing, you might ask? Well, preferred pricing is a 10 to 15% discount that you get on your award flights. This feature alone is the reason that I keep this card, as there is no other way to get preferred pricing for free. The only other way that you can get preferred pricing is if you have status with Air Canada or have one of the other Aeroplan cards, which does come with an annual fee. To show you how important preferred pricing is, I booked a flight from New York to Dubai, which initially costed 207,000 points. After preferred pricing was applied, I paid about 113,000 points. This is an extreme example, but you can see how important preferred pricing can be. Something to note here is that preferred pricing only applies to Air Canada and Emirates flights. It does not apply to any other airlines, as they don't work on a dynamic pricing model. This card comes with auto rental insurance that doesn't come with any other card on this list except for the Cobalt card. You also get purchase protection and extended insurance with this card like every other card on this list. If you do engage with the Air Canada Aeroplan program a lot or fly with Air Canada a lot, you'll be glad to know that as long as you hold this card, none of the points that you have expire. Assuming that we take the same spend from the Cobalt card, you would earn about 18,250 points. These are quite a few points and you can do quite a bit with it. Some of the things that you can consider is that you can fly from Toronto to New York or Chicago round trip for just 12,000 points. Or you could go one way to somewhere like Washington DC or Boston. That's pretty much going to be it for this video. If you did learn or enjoy this video, you know what to do. If there are other student credit cards that we've missed out, please let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to know your thoughts. With that being said, we will catch you in the next video.